And Adam Sparks, the Knoxville News Sentinel, joins us now on 104.5 The Zone to talk about the matchup that will take place. It's going to be rocking at Neyland Stadium. Adam will be on the scene with the rest of his colleagues. Covering it, KnoxNews.com is where you can go. We've been talking a lot about this game this week, Adam. I'm sure you have too, in keeping up with all the things that are going on around the program. Is this Josh Heupel's best shot at Kirby Smart, or are we being hyperbolic?
No, this is his best shot. For a few reasons. This is early in the year. We don't know what Georgia has yet. Tennessee's looked pretty good in the first two games for what it matters. I do think Josh Heupel has learned – we'll see how it goes, but I think he's learned offensively to some extent that he can't do what he does against everybody else against Georgia. But there's only so many times you can go out with the same offense, same type of approach, and it not win that you got to change it up. And we saw that a little bit last year. Josh Heupel's offense, spread everybody out, isolate on the outside. That works really well against Mississippi State and Kentucky and, whoever else, because you're putting your wide receiver out on an island with a DB and you're making a defense commit somebody else out there or into the box, and then you have a numbers game. So you're committing a safety out there. That works with almost every other team. It doesn't work with Georgia because Georgia wants your wide receiver against their corner because their corner is better than your wide receiver. And so I think doing that so many times, I think Josh Heupel has figured out. He figured out a little bit last year when they went a lot of too tight and more tight formations, ran the ball through to the tight end a lot. If you remember last year, Miles Kitselman caught like 4 balls, I think, on the first drive. So I think they're going to do that more. And so it may be the best timing at this point that it's a home game. It's early in the season. Georgia doesn't have either of those quarterbacks that they've had in the past. Carson Beck is gone. We don't know what we're going to get out of Gunnar Stockton. And Gunnar Stockton, Joey Aguilar, this is his first SEC game. This is Gunnar Stockton's first SEC game. So we don't know how either of them are going to react to pressure. I'm not saying Tennessee's going to win. I do think, though, that the things that need to align for them to have a chance to finally win this game have probably aligned best this year.
At Adam Sparks is where you follow along. We're talking Vols and Georgia this Saturday with Adam Sparks, the Knoxville News Sentinel.
Well, and to that point, Adam, we have only ever seen Tennessee and Georgia play at the earliest around the midway point in the season in the modern era. Now here we are getting to learn about these teams with the SEC opener. For that reason, does this make it the most intriguing quarterback duel that we've had in quite some time in this series, given that we feel like we're going to learn something about Joey Aguilar and Gunnar Stockton one way or the other?
Yeah, I think so. We're going to learn a lot about either of these teams at a lot of positions. Yeah, we'll learn more about quarterback. Joey Aguilar could be just, a guy who finds out where his ceiling is and where Tennessee is. If he didn't play great and they lose, he also could be mystical status by, 7 p.m. on Saturday. There's a lot on the line of his story could go either way. Georgia and Tennessee both have 4 new starters on the offensive line. We felt good about what we've seen so far, Tennessee's offensive line and somewhat of Georgia's, but, neither of them have played anybody yet. So we'll know more about that. We'll know more about the wide receivers on both sides. The fact that this game is early, I think the big factor that comes to mind there is how does Kirby Smart rev up his guys? Because Kirby Smart, every year for this game, it has been sort of a snake in the grass. I've had at least 1 or 2 games. Last year, he lost to Ole Miss before the Tennessee game. 2 years ago, we were really bad against Missouri. Had a couple bad games the year before that where you said, okay, this may not be the same Georgia team. I think Tennessee can maybe beat this team. And then he would get into the Tennessee game, and he would just – Kirby is phenomenal on game days. And he would get his guys up, and he would get the best out of them. But that's when he had a history with that team. Right now, he has 2 games history with this team. And so, you just wonder if he can have the same effect on his guys on game day to get the best out of them. Because if Georgia plays like they did against Austin Peay, Tennessee's going to win this game. But that's in the past, they've had a game like that, and then they haven't looked like that team when they played the Vols.
David Sanders Jr. listed as questionable. Jackson Moy, Tyree Weathersby, the defensive lineman, listed as questionable. Adam, I'm not going to ask you whether or not these guys are going to play because Josh Heupel famously mum on these things. But what is the impact there of either one of those guys not being available on Saturday?
Well, I mean, David Sanders is a really crazy decision because they've thought for a long time he's one of their best 5 linemen, but he hasn't played a snap. So do you put him out there? Is the risk at tackle or is the risk at guard? If you feel like your best guards are Moy and Perry, do you put Sanders out there so that you can have your best guards there? Or do you risk something having David Sanders' first snap be against Georgia? There's a lot of things going on there. Jackson Moy is at D tackle. I think that's a sneaky, impactful injury because Georgia has a lot of injuries on its offensive line. I think of all the guys that they could have sit out, I think they have 3 offensive linemen that are on the injury list. I've heard there probably should be a 4th on there that I was surprised did not show up. All those guys that made up and get to this game, it's Juan Gaston, the right guard, former 5-star recruit. I think he has the best chance of not playing. And if he doesn't play and Tennessee's Jackson Moy does play, you suddenly have potentially a better matchup there than you would if it goes the other way around and Gaston can play and Moy is out, because Tennessee has some good depth at defensive line, but not great depth, and they need Moy in this game. There's no doubt about it.
Adam Sparks, Knoxville News Sentinel. KnoxNews.com is where you can read all of the great stuff that Adam and his colleagues are writing about the Vols. Joey Aguilar, what have we learned about him through his first 2 starts as Tennessee's quarterback?
He fits the offense. Now, if he looks like he fits it as well against the Georgia defense, well, we'll see. He's been very controlled, very calm. I mean, all his teammates have said, in game, a guy's cool customers. You'll see, but I mean that matches everything. I mean, I've talked to his former teammates and other teams, and I've read about him. And at App State and in junior college, even in high school, I talked to his high school teammates. Same thing. It's just Joey's a cool customer, no matter what the situation in the game. So that what we've seen so far matches that. But again, he's not faced a defense that's got ample number of NFL early round picks on it and has 2 or 3 5-stars in the secondary. He just has not faced that. So I'm curious to see if what we've seen so far of him holds up. But he's pretty accurate with the football. He will take risks. I mean, he had the reputation as a little bit of a gunslinger, and we saw that in the ETSU game. Josh Heupel had a great answer after that game when asked about, what about him just throwing the ball up to Mike Matthews for that touchdown? And Josh Heupel was asked, what did you think about that throw? And he said, well, the result was a touchdown. So that's a positive. Obviously showing that, dude, don't throw that ball against Georgia. So there's some risk there. He has not thrown a pick yet, but he could have thrown a couple if they were against better teams.
Yeah, it's funny, Adam, because that's the highlight that was making the rounds, right? Joey Aguilar bombed to Mike Matthews. Might have been his most dangerous throw of the day.
The thing about that throw, though, is Travis Smith was the other receiver, I think, in that area, and I think he didn't adjust his route well. So I think it looked like he was throwing into traffic more so than it did, because it was supposed to be Matthews in a corner and then maybe a late safety going up for that ball. But instead it got really crowded because the freshman receiver thought the ball was to him, so drifted over there. So it was still a risky throw. It probably wasn't as risky as we think because of who was on the field.
Yeah, all's well that ends well, I suppose. But yes, we'll see if that isn't repeated this weekend. At Adam Sparks is where you follow him. Knox News is where you read his latest inside the Tennessee football versus Georgia talent gap from Joey Aguilar to 5-star recruits. Adam, is this as close, understanding Georgia still has the upper hand in what they've done, the foundation they've built in recruiting, but is this as close as the talent profiles of these teams have been in this series in the Heupel era?
They've inched closer. So, yeah, they are closer. There's still quite a margin there. I mean, Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama have the three most talented rosters. But they're not as talented. Well, I shouldn't say they're not as talented. They're not as deep as they were 3 or 4 years ago. Tennessee has inched its way up a little bit and closed that gap somewhat. In that piece that I wrote, we didn't just look at like the total like blue chip ratio, the total stars on the roster. We just looked at the 40 guys for each team, about 20 on offense, 20 on defense that will actually play in this game, because that's really all you need to worry about when you talk about talent gap within a game. And the most interesting matchup, I think, it's pretty even one way, but Tennessee's offense versus Georgia's defense. Georgia's defense has 10 of 11 starters are blue chips. That's 4-star, 5-star. Tennessee has, I think, 8 guys on offense, something like that. There are 3 stars or unrated. So you think about the key players in Tennessee's offense. Joey Aguilar, unrated out of high school. Deshaun Bishop, a walk-on. Chris Brazo, a 3-star out of high school. Miles Kitzelman, unrated out of high school. These are all guys that are key players. Star Thomas, 3-star out of high school, that are all sort of just like 3-star guys or unrated guys out of high school. That's on Tennessee's offense, and Georgia's defense is loaded with 4-star and 5-star. So if the talent gap if it means anything, that's where it's going to show up.
He's Adam Sparks. He's the best. We appreciate your time, buddy. Safe travels and enjoy the game on Saturday. We'll be somewhere drunk in the stands, I assume. So if you see anybody getting kicked out, there's many people at Neyland Stadium having a great time, but I'm sure Bert will be naked somewhere in the stands.
Oh, I'm just now getting into Nashville, so I barely missed coming in studio.
Oh, that would have been fantastic.
Well, it's a convenient excuse by you. Well done.
That's right.
See you, Adam.
See ya.
That's Adam Sparks with us on 104.5 The Zone, knoxnews.com for more details. You scared?
Oh, the BVS is not that high. I mean, it's just kind of, again, this
is he lying, Robert? I don't care. He's just I don't care about the way that he's trying to deflect on us.
Why'd you look back at me like that? Why'd you look back at me like I wasn't supposed to?
Take my side, please.
I don't know if he's scared. But I do feel like he is maybe a little trepidatious. He may not want to talk as much smack because he realizes he may. It's like the old Perry Saturn line, like, you may whoop my ass, but you're going to have to. Like, he understands that they will have to whoop their ass.
It's just, I'm telling you, this whole season is kind of just this intriguing case study for me of, like, let's see what happens.
No, for sure. I just, like, my sense is, and I saw Tyler just say this in the chat, so we'll credit him, but Tyler Dial on YouTube says BVS is the lowest it's been for a Georgia game in a while. And that's just kind of the sense that I get from all of you about this. And understandably so, Georgia is not at the very top of the heap. They're obviously one of the best programs in the SEC. Nobody would dispute that. They, I think, inarguably have the best coach in the SEC until somebody comes along and pushes Kirby Smart for that title. I know Sark's got at least some level of he's got some part of the conversation, but it's Kirby. Tennessee, I wish that we had a greater sample size to know what these two teams actually are, but maybe that's to your advantage, the way that Sparks is saying. It's so early in the season. If you want to catch Georgia, maybe now's the time to catch them. And you want to beat them on even ground, I guess, to prove that you're better than them in one of these situations, maybe. Or maybe you just want to win. I don't know how you feel about it.
Well, again, week 3, this is why it's so fascinating, because we're going to get to learn about Tennessee and Georgia in the SEC opener. We've not had that in the modern era, but there's also this kind of feeling of, and granted, when the ball kicks off and the bullets are flying, Tennessee fans are going to be living and dying with every play, right? But in the lead up to it, compare it to last year. Going down to Athens, Tennessee a 1-loss team, Georgia a 2-loss team, coming off that 18-point loss in Oxford. And it was a very clear, like, this game will be sort of a line of demarcation for Tennessee. Either you lose and you're still in the playoff hunt, but it's not as much of a guarantee, or you win and the path to 11-1 is right there, everything in front of you. Whereas this year, it's so much wider of a gap between a win and a loss. If you lose, then, okay, the season is more in line with the expectation going in. If you win and you beat Georgia for the first time in 8 years, for the first time in the Josh Heupel era, suddenly so many more possibilities open for what this season could be for Tennessee fans, which is why there's sort of this house money vibe to it as opposed to the pressure feeling that there was going into Athens last year of this is a huge game in the playoff race. And I suppose you could say the same about this game, but it will adjust our expectations of the season dramatically. And if it is a loss, then it will be more in line with what we thought this season was going to be. And I can say now, it wouldn't necessarily be the most devastating thing for Tennessee fans. Again, context is everything. They could lose on a last-second field goal after playing a great 4 quarters, and it would be absolutely heartbreaking if it's there for the taking. But I don't know. That's why there's sort of this almost house money feel to this game. It's just an interesting vibe. We talked a lot in the 2022 season about the offense. How was Tennessee able to win 11 games in 2022, given all of the hurdles Heupel had to overcome, the roster he inherited? They weren't even close to that 85 scholarship limit in 2022. It was because of the offense. The offense was this equalizer. It balanced the scales, even if Tennessee had a talent deficit against the likes of Alabama and Clemson in that season, and they won both of those games because the offense was this great equalizer. So after 2022, there was this very exciting feeling of, okay, if the offense can continue to be that and the talent profile continues to get raised, that's more on par with the likes of Alabama and Georgia and so on, then it's very exciting to think about the possibilities of the Josh Heupel era. Well, the talent profile has steadily raised. Not enough, I will say. Certainly not to the level of where Georgia is at the moment. 2026 recruiting class is looking good, but for right now, problem is the offense didn't reach those heights the last 2 years. There are these flashes in the first 2 weeks of the offense hearkening a little bit back to that 2022 season with the fit that Aguilar could be within that scheme. And while unproven, he is surrounded by a more talented on paper group than what Tennessee had even in 2022. So if those things can kind of mesh together, that the depth is better, the foundation is better, up front, defensively, that talent profile is raised, and the offense can go back to being this great equalizer, then can that be enough to tip the scales enough for Tennessee to beat Georgia for the first time, a team that has felt like it's been Tennessee-proof in the Josh Heupel era?
In the DraftKings Sportsbook app, you can get Tennessee as a 3.5-point home underdog. The over-under is 49.5. Vols on the money line plus 150. So a $10 bet would net you $25 if the Vols were to straight up win. Over-under on that game.
Do you have it in front of you?
No, 49.5. I'm saying, would you?
49.
I may or may not place some entertainment purposes only wagers on this game.
Oh, then you have to bet the over. If it's for entertainment, you can't bet the under.
Yeah, if you're going to do it for entertainment purposes,
well, I'm going to be entertained because I'm going to be at the game. I don't really care. Like, I'm not going to check my bets while that's going on. I'm not a degenerate.
No, I get that. But if you bet the under, then when people score, every time you're going to be like, the under.
Well, I won't remember because then I'll look at my phone later and be like, damn, I lost that bet. But
okay, cool. Well,
I'm not somebody who like watches that while I'm watching a game.
Put one in for me for the over.
For Georgia, the question is the downfield passing game. Kirby talked a lot about that this week. Everybody Georgia has played, Marshall and Austin Peay so far, has given them whatever they want underneath and just prevented something from going over the top. And so Gunnar Stockton's taking what the defense is giving him and so on. So that's the test for Georgia. Can they test that downfield passing game against the Tennessee secondary without its two best corners? In turn, can Tennessee do more to affect the quarterback and shake Gunnar Stockton in his first ever road start? Mike Keith this morning had an interesting sort of comparison where Stockton has played higher quality opponents without question, right? But he's never done it on the road. Joey Aguilar has way more experience than Gunnar Stockton, but he's never done it to the level of college football playoff the way Stockton has. So we'll see which quarterback responds better in what will be a raucous environment Saturday.